Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking something absolutely crucial for anyone working in architecture, engineering, and construction, or really any team juggling complex projects. We're going to look at how you can take your team's baseline technical capabilities and actually transform them into enduring professional character. We're talking about a system known as the Diamond Cadence, and honestly, it's going to completely change how you view continuous improvement.
Now let me ask you something that's probably going to sound a little too familiar. Why is it that despite having incredibly capable people, smart managers, and the absolute best of intentions, the exact same coordination problems and RFIs just keep coming back, project after project? You know the drill. You hold a lessons learned workshop, everyone nods, everyone agrees to do better next time, and yet, the exact same communication breakdowns happen the minute deadlines tighten up. Why on earth does that happen?
Okay, let's dive into this. What we're really talking about here are the painful symptoms of something called process theater. You've probably seen this. It happens when teams perform the superficial rituals of collaboration, like generating endless reports or holding postmortems without actually applying the insights. We identify the lessons, but we don't embed them. We claim we're making progress, but we're really just hiding our assumptions. And when things inevitably go wrong, a culture of defensiveness and blame completely takes over. We're going through the motions, but the team's underlying habits aren't changing one bit.
So, how do we actually fix this? Well, here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the illusion of progress. Second, we'll enter the diamond cycle. Third, we'll talk about preventing process theater. Fourth, we'll break down the fractal learning rhythm. And finally, we'll see how capability becomes character.
All right, starting off with part one, the illusion of progress and why linear models fail in complex AEC environments. You see, the core problem here isn't that we lack technical skill. It's actually the very structure of our work. Traditionally, we organize things like a pyramid. It's highly linear, very top-down, plan, execute, control. And hey, that worked great in the predictable industrial era. But modern projects, they're incredibly complex. That's why we have to adapt the diamond. It's a cyclical, continuous feedback loop. Think of it as a living system of adaptive coordination, rather than just a rigid, old-school chain of command.
Which brings us right to part two. Enter the diamond cycle, a living system of learning.
So let's look at Christo Becker's diamond process cycle. It's basically a governance architecture designed to connect every single stage of a project through reciprocal learning. It runs in 8 stages. First up, we define the task. This is where we establish our purpose and figure out what success actually looks like. Then comes planning, where we align our people, our resources, and our assumptions. Next is development, which is where ideas and tools get refined and coordinated. And then we hit implementation. This is where the plan smacks into reality and decisions turn into tangible actions. Now, if you were using a traditional linear model, you'd probably stop right about here. But the diamond cycle, it's just getting started.
And this brilliantly illustrates where the diamond completely breaks away from traditional models. Look at these next 4 stages. We don't just stop at assessment, measuring the results against our expectations. No way. Assessment is actually a bridge to reflection, where we take a step back and understand the root causes of those results. From there, we extract lessons, taking our raw experience and converting it into reusable, practical knowledge. And finally, stage 8 is character. This is the whole point, the ultimate goal, embedding that learning into the team's actual behavior and culture going forward. Literally every cycle should leave both the project and the people better than they were before.
Moving right along to Section 3. Preventing process theater through integrity checks.
So, you might be wondering, how do we stop these 8 stages from just becoming another superficial checklist that everyone blindly ticks off? Well, the secret sauce here is what we call the opposite pairs. These act as built-in internal integrity checks. Basically, your claims, your intentions from the first half of the cycle have to be rigorously tested against the tangible evidence in the second half. For example, the task you defined, that has to be proven by your assessment. The planning you did is challenged by your reflection. Your development phase is validated by the lessons you extract, and your implementation is ultimately revealed by the character your team builds. If your claim on one side doesn't match the evidence on its opposite, boom, you've just caught yourself playing process theater. And the best part is, you know exactly where you need to course correct.
Let's move to part 4, the fractal learning rhythm, and scaling the solution.
Now here's a really crucial point. This cycle isn't just some clunky, massive framework reserved for a $1 billion 5-year mega project. The diamond is fractal. That means it's a pattern that repeats across completely different scales.
The exact same 8-step learning cycle applies whether an apprentice is just trying to figure out the best way to source water to mix some cement, or an entire division is coordinating a massive BIM model, or a global firm is delivering a high-rise building. The technical task scales up and down, but that underlying rhythm of defining, acting, reflecting, and learning, it remains exactly the same.
Let's move to how this builds in the real world. By interlocking these micro and macro diamonds, you create a very natural breathing rhythm. On a daily basis, your focus is on alignment. You're defining, planning, and implementing just to keep things moving in the right direction. Weekly, your cadence shifts to reflection, assessing what just happened and why, to stop firefighting for becoming your team's default state. And then monthly, you focus on capability, taking all those weekly insights and translating them into lasting lessons in character, making continuous improvement your new everyday standard practice.
Finally, Part 5, Capability becomes character, and forming habits under pressure. This takes us into some really fascinating psychological territory. Think about what happens to your team when you repeat these cycles under intense, real-world schedule pressure. Peter Senge hit the nail on the head when he said, "Structure influences behavior more than individual talent." It's kind of an unsettling thought, isn't it? It means that even if you have the absolute most talented, capable, well-meaning individuals in the world, they are going to produce consistently disappointing results if the structure they operate in defaults to bad habits the second deadlines tighten up. To really get why this happens, we have to look at Daniel Kahneman's cognitive science. We all operate in two modes of thinking. System 1 is fast, automatic, and practically effortless. System 2, on the other hand, is slow, it's deliberate, and it is highly expensive in terms of your mental energy. Under the fatigue and schedule pressure that we constantly see in complex projects, teams almost always default to System 1. We just naturally take the fast, easy shortcut. The problem is, if you take that shortcut 10 times in a row, it hardens into a habit. Eventually, that repeated shortcut stops being a workaround and literally becomes your team's actual culture.
Let's ground this with a real-world case study. Picture an MEP team, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing coordination. These folks are highly trained in digital model verification, but operating under a brutally compressed schedule, they started skipping their digital checks. They opted to just field fix conflicts out on the actual construction site because in the moment, it felt faster. That was their System 1 taking over. By their second project, "We'll just field fix it" became their standard accepted language. The result? Their requests for information absolutely skyrocketed, and general contractors quietly stopped inviting them to bid. Their baseline capability was still there, for sure, but their cadence under pressure had completely rewritten their character.
So how do you even fix a downward spiral like that? Well, it didn't take a massive corporate reorganization or weeks of retraining. The solution was exactly 30 seconds long. No kidding. Leadership inserted a mandatory 30-second System 2 check right into their daily cadence. They simply had to log a model check before they could commit to any field fix. That tiny, deliberate pause interrupted their System 1 drift. And over time, that new cadence completely restored their coordination accuracy.
And that brings us right to the absolute core message of today's explainer. The crisis reveals the cadence. It rarely creates it. Your team's character isn't formed in one dramatic movie moment event. It is rehearsed into existence, one single cycle at a time. The way your team reacts when a client calls furious on a Friday afternoon or when a massive model clashes is really just a reflection of the cadence you've been quietly rehearsing all along.
So, I want to leave you with this one provocative question to really chew on. What habits is your current cadence quietly forming? Take a close look at the systems, the meetings, and the daily rhythms you participate in. Are they building the professional character you actually want? Or are you just rehearsing shortcuts that are eventually going to cost you? Think about how you can insert your own integrity checks, and I guarantee you'll start seeing a massive shift from mere process theater to authentic, continuous growth. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and keep learning.